Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. We have from 1836. Well, this charcoal perfected was introduced in 1956. I should have put that on the notes. But the company, Dant, was established in 1836. Old style whiskey with natural flavors and caramel colors. Oh boy. It's such a good whiskey, they had to add flavoring to it and color it to make it look dark. Yeah, well, I'm making fun of it, but hey, it's the kind of thing that sort of like invites ridicule. $6.49 for the bottle in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. So Max, excuse me, Maxwell. Hi, Ron. Good morning. Maxwell's watching from Russia, the Russian Federation. The competitor is another lowly offering. T.W. Samuel's Kentucky blended whiskey, also 80 proof. This company was, it says, Kentucky whiskey is our business. Every drop contains Kentucky whiskey. They have Kentucky on the front label. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So we get it. Kentucky, we get it. There's the back, the Heaven Hill crest. Now they won't say Heaven Hill on the bottle. 80-20 blend. I got to update these notes because the 80-20 blend ratio, and it's aged 3 years. It's sold in this town. Winn-Dixie sells it. They used to sell it here. I know it's popular in Hammond, Louisiana, and in the Baton Rouge area. So it's more of a Baton Rouge. Oh, and in St. James, Louisiana. So it's more of a Baton Rouge diocese product, but it can be found in the New Orleans district, but not too commonly. I paid $8.99 at Winn-Dixie here, which is kind of high, really, for what you're getting. But then Winn-Dixie is kind of high for everything. I was looking at their liquor selection the other day. I was just shaking my head. I said 90% of what they have here I would never buy because of the price, maybe higher than 90%. I did buy 2 rums over there, which were unusually low, but I just avoid that place. Selection's great. Price, terrible. No age statement. No blend ratio. And it doesn't even say it's Kentucky whiskey. It just says old style, bottled by Dant, Bardstown, Kentucky. So what does that mean? Could this be just shipped in and then bottled there? Yeah. Shipped in from where? The likely suspect would be MGP, Midwest Grain Products of Lawrenceburg, Indiana, who does so much distilling and blending. And they do like prefabricated, like a prefab house. They do prefabricated whiskey for companies. All right. So I know they do charcoal filtering up there because if you look carefully at the George Dickel website, their George Dickel rye is produced in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. And what they say is they ship the charcoal up from Tennessee to Lawrenceburg to do the filtering. So I know they have a facility there for that. Daryl Macias, good morning from California. Ronald, getting ready for another day. Yes, me too. Good morning to you, Daryl. I'm glad you're watching. So we have an actual Kentucky whiskey. And if it says Kentucky whiskey, it has to be distilled, aged, and bottled in Kentucky. But if it says bottled in Kentucky, it doesn't have to be because it's not making a claim. See, the label requirements are all about what claim you're making. So that I don't support regulations, but I'll admit that the regulations make sense because it's based on what they're claiming has to match what's inside the bottle. But it doesn't mean, so they cannot lie. You understand? They cannot lie. But that doesn't mean they can't be deceptive, you see. But this one's clear. Kentucky blended whiskey, blended and bottled by Samuel T.W. Samuel's Distillery. Now you say, but it doesn't say distilled. That's true, but it doesn't matter because it says Kentucky whiskey. So if you read the regs, if it says the state, like if it said Tennessee whiskey, that means it got to be distilled there. But here, this says charcoal perfected, and it says nothing about distilled in Kentucky. It says nothing about blended in Kentucky, and nor does it say anything about charcoal perfected in Kentucky, nor does it call it Kentucky whiskey. It just say bottled. So you would conceive, and I would conceive, and it would probably be almost 100% correct, that it's shipped in from Lawrenceburg. We don't know it's Lawrenceburg. That's just the best guess, because that's how huge the thing is and how much outsourcing they do. That is shipped down to Bardstown. Heaven Hill bottles it, and there it is on the shelf in Mississippi. I've never seen it in Louisiana. I want to take that back. I think I have seen it in the big handle bottle, plastic bottle, now that I think about it, at Dorgnac's. I know Dorgnac's has the Dant's straight bourbon, the white label. That's for sure. They got the Medley Brothers bottled and bond also, which is sort of related to this in a way because it's Heaven Hill. Medley was an old company. And they definitely have the J.W. Dance blended scotch because that's where I bought it. $8.99 a liter. Best value on the market. Best value on the market. Rob de los Santos. I'm in California. Excellent. Got Far East, Russia. Far West, California. I'm in the far central. All right. Boy, they're both rich caramel colored. Yeah, they're caramel, all right, because that's what they color them with, caramel. Well, let's say, what if they didn't add the caramel color? They'd probably be so pale that you'd be lucky if they had a straw color, very light yellow color. You say, well, the charcoal perfected has no age statement, so the straight whiskey's got to be aged at least 4 years. Yeah, okay, so it's aged 4 years in a used barrel. That's not going to impart much color. The Samuels, T.W. Samuels is aged 3 years in a used barrel. You're not going to get much color. So they add the caramel to make it look to make it look correct in people's mind. You understand? Good morning. Good morning to you. It's not going to change the flavor, all right? The caramel color doesn't, it's not a flavoring item. It's a odor, it's just a color, all right? It doesn't taint the flavor. So you could put it at the natural color and it would taste the same. It's just people might not want it. I had that King Square from Florida, and it doesn't look like it's colored. It's so pale, so very pale. Oh, so very pale. It's got a strange blend ratio also, and the taste is odd, but it's not bad. It's actually one of the better American blended whiskeys I've had. And it's also one of the most unusual in appearance, aroma, flavor, blend ratio, availability, etc. Talk about an oddity, that's it. But that's not for today. That's coming up in a week or so. Am I going to be able to tell these apart? I don't have much confidence at all. I did the Kentucky Bow. The Kentucky Bow 2 days ago got it wrong. I thought it was the charcoal perfected. I said, oh yeah, it's charcoal perfected. Wrongo. And the Kentucky Bow is clearly a 3-year aged 80-20 blend. Charcoal perfected, don't know the age. I wouldn't think it'd be a second over 4 years. I'm sure as soon as that bell goes off, bing, and it hits 4 years, it's in the bottle. You know what I mean? Or in the shipping tank down to Kentucky. Don't know the blend ratio. Maybe it's a higher percentage of straight whiskeys than 20%. But on that note, seems to me they tout it. They would talk about it because if it's a higher blend ratio, they want you to know that this is better. Hey, It's 25% straight bourbon, or 27.2. No, 27.5. That's what the King Square was. They're going to tout it. Or as I've heard some people say, tote it. But it's not pronounced tote. Tote is what you do when you're carrying something. You know, you tote it. But people a lot of times will read a word and they don't know. They've never heard maybe people pronounce it, so they think it's pronounced a certain way. I was watching an interview this week with a rock singer. She's 80 years old now, but she was back in the 1970s. She was doing an interview show and she said, "Is Jack a cretin?" And the host said, "You mean a cretin?" She said, "Well, I said it wrong. I thought it was cretin." Now, she might have only read the word and never really heard it, and she thought it was pronounced cretin. That was great slick. I got a kick out of it. And everybody in the audience was like, "What? Cretin?" Anyway, all right. So I've heard people on video say tote it. The company totes it, but they're meaning to say tout it. Well, this smells okay. You see, these things will smell all right. It's the problem. The problem comes in when you start tasting it. And after all, it is a taste challenge. It smells like whiskey. You know what I mean? Sort of tangy, corny, like corn. Fermented, vanilla-ish oak barrel. Not too much oaky or charred oak, but all the floral notes like flower, nectar, all the kind of normal things you think of when you think of whiskey, or as the U.S. government says, the flavors and aromas generally associated with whiskey. That's actually a law. Well, it's a regulation in pursuant of the law, you know what I'm saying? But under the purview of the law, or the authority of the law. But it's saying that whiskey actually has to smell and taste like whiskey. So it'd be illegal to make a whiskey that tasted like brandy. I think they would allow it if you said whiskey that tastes like brandy on the label. But then, I don't know. I don't know how you would achieve that anyway, but it just smells standard. I wouldn't be offended by the aroma. I wouldn't be geared up to have it, but it's okay. It's all right. The smell is okay. Do I know which is which? So far, no, I don't. But I remember the Charcoal Perfected having some weird twang, nutty, strange flavoring nose on it. Like they added some kind of flavor of who knows what it is. It smelled like walnut oil, but it's probably, you know what, it's probably blending sherry, and it's just something weird about it. Oh, yep, that's it. Ha, ha, ha. Woof. Now, I said in the previous video that if you gave somebody T.W. Samuels, they might actually think that it's bourbon. There is a T.W. Samuels straight bourbon, but I've never seen it in a store. And I believe T.W. Samuels, a descendant of his, whose name was T.W. Samuels also, isn't he the one that invented Maker's Mark? I don't mean invented it, you know, developed it in 1940. Wasn't that the story, Maker's Mark? Or was it Four Roses? It was one of those two. It was but it's not this T.W. Samuels. This is the old man who started, but it was a descendant. Okay, so it smells like bourbon, really. And this does not at all. It smells like, oh, I guess it's some kind of weird sherry. You say they don't put sherry in whiskey, you fool. Well, actually they do, and I'm not a fool. Read your regulations. It's blended, not bourbon. American blended whiskey is allowed to have up to, and I'm almost positive it's 2.5% by volume of blending sherry, no more than 2.5. And why do they add the blending sherry? So it'll have some kind of flavor, that's why. And it won't taste like nothing, like rubbing alcohol, corn alcohol. That is an odd aroma. I don't even know how to express the aroma. Like, you have to come smell it. Like, you want to smell it over the internet? Look. Weird, huh? You know, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. You have to go buy it. Okay, Time to taste it. But I think I know already. I'm almost sure this is the Samuels. Would I rather buy the Samuels? Well, yeah, if it tastes better, you say, but it's $2.50 more. Yeah, it's worth $2.50 more. You see, I said this all along about Samuels. It has a bourbon flavor. You get charred oak, vanilla, corn, of course, but not too heavy on that. Sweet corn. It's not heavy on like eating Quaker grits. The dried fruitcake fruit, the flower, nectar, that honeysuckle, right? So that is, and I guess Seagram Seven Crown would be the other one. But this is one where if you gave an unsuspecting person this and told them it was bourbon and they didn't know any better and you had ice in it, they probably just would drink it and wouldn't question it. Now, if they asked to see the bottle, you'd be say, oh, is this? Show it real fast. But they might say, let me see. Oh, wait a minute. You know, some people are like me. They're going to check it out. But the average person just might drink it and say, oh, okay, that's pretty good bourbon. Then they'd be watching a football game with you and wouldn't remark on it further. Could a lot of bars, restaurants and bars use T.W. Samuels as a bourbon? Like people say, give me a bourbon and Coke and use that. You say, well, that's cheating. I didn't say they didn't. I've had people say that they switched the liquor out of the bottles. I've had a person that worked at a restaurant in New York City tell me that. He said, that's what we do. He says, so crooked. I've had another person tell me that. I won't name the restaurant chain, but I went to a Mexican restaurant in Houston, Texas, 3 years ago, and they had T.W. Samuels on their showcase on the counter, you know, at the bar, showing what you could drink. And I don't remember the menu saying blended whiskey and Coke. So if you go in there and say, yo quiero bourbon y Coke, you know, y Coke, you might be getting this. You're getting ripped off because it's going to cost you almost as much for the one mixed drink as you could go buy the whole bottle. But that's how it works, drinking out at a bar. You're going to get ripped off. Okay. Did you ever try Knob Creek? No, not yet, but it's on my to-try list. It looks like it would be good. Yeah, it actually is good. I mean, it's not. If I wanted to give it a score, I'd be like 81. Maybe 83, because it actually is getting into the literally good range. You know, like you don't have to make an argument or qualify it like, well, it's good if you're in this circumstance, or if you do this with it, or if you do that. It's just like good, not great. Long way from great. Okay. Would I buy it again? Are you crazy? No, I mean, I'm not going to buy it again. I bought it. I've done it. Been there, done that. Okay, that's enough. This bro is cracking early. Yes. I'm waiting for daylight. See, once you get closer and closer to December, it gets darker. It stays darker longer. Oh, here's the trepidation one. Oh, no. Oh, wow. That is the most bizarre flavor. Now, I can't say it's like literally a bad flavor. It just tastes like some kind of candy item, like one of these, what you call that, caramel candies with some kind of strange back note, spice, butter, or something, nut, something. I don't know. It tastes so improper for what a whiskey should taste like. That's what I mean. If it was some kind of weird candy, well, you say, well, I went to this international market and I bought this weird candy from Brunei Darussalam. It tasted really weird. I ate the whole box over 2 days, but I'd never buy it again. Okay, fair enough. What did you expect? But this, it's not a weird candy from Brunei Darussalam or Keeling Cocos Island in the Indian Ocean. This is a whiskey product bottled in Kentucky should not taste like this. I don't know what it is. Is it blending sherry? Now you say, oh, but the blending sherry is from Brunei Darussalam. Ah, yes. Okay. Now, anyway, it's got to be the charcoal perfected. Is it as good as T.W. Samuels? No, it's way worse. You could. There's a strange pepper spice too. Why? Does it have pepper added? No. You could, and it would be a stretch. And I was stretching. You could say it's an 80, B minus, marginally good, arguably good. You could somehow claim that it's good in some ways. By what I just did. But see, that's how you got to quantify it, qualify it, justify it. You know what I mean? You can't even say it's good on its own merits by just tasting it. You got to make all these like scenarios where you could call it good. So it's highly questionable. In a real analysis, in an honest analysis, a more practical analysis, it probably fall in the C range where it's fair, it's tolerable. You could drink it. Don't know why you ever would. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't drink it. You wouldn't buy it. It's average. See, that's what C means. It's average. Why are you buying it? It's not worth buying. What is a D? Well, that's just flat out bad. If I score something a D, that means it's bad. And it has nothing worthwhile about it. There's nothing good about it at all. You could drink it some kind of way. You could choke it down if you took little sips once a week and you're done with it and you hate it and you have great contempt for it and you talk terrible about it and it deserves it because it's a bad product. That's the D range. Are those common? No. They're rare. They exist. More in beer than in wine and liquor. Well, I'm not too sure about wine. I don't know enough about wine. But beer, they got some D's out there. They're not everywhere, but they're there. And when you get them, you know it because you can't stand drinking it. What about F? F means it's undrinkable. You cannot drink it. It's so bad, you can't drink it. You dump it out. You say, I don't care what I paid for it. I'm dumping it out. And if you gave it to somebody, they wouldn't drink it. So unfortunately, they have some beers like that. How they sell, I do not know. Whiskey, rum, gin. I haven't tried any Fs yet. Wine, yes. Poured it down the sink. Rancid. Wasn't drinking it. Thank God I didn't. Gibson's Vineyard. That's what it's called, right? Gibson's Vineyard, Marsala. It was rancid. I said, oh, I took one sip and I poured it down. And I smelled it. I poured it right down the sink. The whole bottle. 750 milliliters on video. And then I went back to the store and I told him that stuff was rancid. You know what the guy tells me? Well, a lot of people cook with that. Now I'm still trying to figure out how a lot of people cook with that is relevant to the stuff being rancid. So far, an F, you would be spitting it out. Definitely. You couldn't drink it. And if you did drink it, you would be stupid and you'd get very sick, probably. I drank some beer that was probably an A, but it was so old and rancid that it was an F. And I drank 4 ounces and I was puking 4 hours later and sick for a day. My bones hurt. That beer was bad. That was that on Decker Bayrock Hell. Bayrock. No, Bayrock. It was so rancid. I mean, the beer had spoiled, obviously. But what do you expect? That's Dornax. They'll leave stuff on the shelf to the post-historic period. I don't mean the prehistoric. I mean post-historic. Like after history ends, they'll still have stuff on the shelf. So you got to be very careful about them. The good thing is you can find stuff that's been gone forever. But make sure it's something like, you know, like Fuller's Vintage Ale. Something that would actually age. Not a German beer that should be drunk within a few months. I've poured out a bottle of mead for being bad. I've never tried mead, but I can imagine how bad it would smell. All right, so I'm going to call it. This is the Samuels. Got to be. Why? It smells and tastes very similar to bourbon. And like I said, you could trick people into thinking it was bourbon. And I think that's why I've seen it at restaurants, because they're doing that same thing. Yeah, Beams 8-Star is another one that smells and tastes a lot like bourbon, but isn't. Look for it. Beams 8-Star. You ever want to see a strange product? Don't tell me, well, I've had Jim Beam. I ain't talking about Jim Beam. No. I'm talking about Beams 8-Star. Real, true story, real product. Seagram 7 Crown tastes like bourbon in many ways. This one does. Beams 8-Star, and no, that's about it. Maybe Ancient Age preferred, but I don't think so. All right, so let's if this says CP, charcoal perfected, well, then I'm wrong. Oh well, I've been wrong a lot lately, so it wouldn't shock me. It doesn't. Okay, so I'm really starting to get the taste, unfortunately, for the charcoal perfected. And I never want to taste that again. Except that I have to, because I got to do all these taste challenges, unfortunately. I'm going to do the long march through the brands. And when you're doing American blended whiskey, it's sort of like you're doing a long march through hell. You know what I'm saying? Oh, woo! That's a circus of flavor. You say, but it's a carnival. It's not a circus. It's the madhouse in the carnival. It is the madhouse. It's everything you never wanted to taste in whiskey, and even worse. But I can't say it's bad, you know, like definitively bad. The whole point is that it's so aberrant. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't. It's like Halloween 3, you know. People went to the theater and said, I'm going, hey, Cindy, let's go see Halloween 3. It'll be interesting, old girl. Yeah, Brad, let's go see Halloween 3. And then they're watching the movie and thinking, this movie on its own has some quality to it. It's an interesting story, but it's in no way related to the first two movies. And why am I here? Like, what is this? So it's an aberration like that. If they called it charcoal perfected concoction item, liquor concoction item, you might like it. But see, your mind's thinking, well, whiskey, the bottle says whiskey. Then you're tasting it and you're saying, no. That ain't no whiskey. No. That was no heart attack. That's what you feel like. You feel like Willie Chi-Chi, and you're saying that was no heart attack. And so it just, that's what I'm here to see Michael about. All right. Anyway, he's got me waiting in the lobby. All right. Aberration. Yeah. An aberration. All right. Well, that's it. It's been, I was going to say fun. It's been helpful, actually, because I'm learning the signposts for this one. And I think I'm going to get them right from now on. You know why? Because I'm not doing any more Heaven Hills, which are, don't get them, Sep Samuels. And I'm going to do Sazerac. The Sazerac blended whiskeys have a much more proper flavor, normal flavor. So all I got to do is think what one tastes strange and irregular and wrong and off track, and then which one tastes more like what you expect from whiskey, and then I'll get it right, you know. So I think it's going to be easy from now on out. And then when I do the Bellows Club whiskey, I got to just find out which one tastes bad, because every time I taste Bellows Club whiskey, it tastes worse than the previous time. And then when I do well, the Bellows whiskey, the blended, just the one they call Bellows blended whiskey, that could be trouble because that one's kind of standard tasting. And then we're going to close out with Seagram 7 Crown. Well, I think 7 Crown is going to whip up on this because 7 Crown tastes like actual good stuff. They don't try to hide from it. They even have their own website for that product. They want you to drink it, you know. and promote it. All right, thanks for watching this video production.